Hey everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back to JOECMDRAWZ, welcome back to a new video. In this new video I'm going to be going over this new One Piece character that I've designed, and I'm going to take you through the process of how I went from the beginning to the final kind of designs you see here. So let's jump straight into it. Okay, to start things off I want to take you right back to the beginning. So initially I had an idea. I didn't really even have an idea. I just thought I want to make a new One Piece character. I want to make them a zombie. Now, I figured that these would be completely different zombies, or a different zombie from the one that Gecko Moria creates in the story, as this would be a true zombie, as the character would have eaten the Hito Hito no Mi mythical model zombie. And they would have all sorts of different powers related to different zombies from mythology and what you see in fiction. So I got to sketching without really a plan actually. And this is kind of like the first kind of sketch that I came up with. Now as you can see, it was pretty much just like head empty, put pen to tablet and see what happened. I got a few different references from like Pinterest and of kind of like these dudes in tank tops, because I really couldn't think of any kind of costume for the character, and I didn't have like a colour palette in mind either. I just knew that I wanted them to be a zombie. I knew I wanted the classic kind of like sewn together stitches. I wanted kind of like this simple design, and I wanted some sort of interesting like accent to him, and that's what you see here with the kind of like knife in his brain. I just thought that was a cool quirk, and it's kind of like stuck throughout the whole character design. So this is kind of like my first initial run through with the character. He's just got a very basic tank top on. He's kind of sort of muscular, upright. He's got this kind of weird blue hair, because I thought I need to make him a little bit more interesting. I don't want to give him like black hair. I don't want to give him like anything complicated. It was just zero, head empty, kind of first thing that came to mind. Oh, blue hair. Zoro has green hair. I want this guy to have blue hair. So it's kind of like my first design, and then I moved on to this design. Now this is one I'm most proud of actually. I've kind of like widened him up. I've made him a little bit beefier. He's got kind of a change of colour in his tank top there, and obviously I've kind of like turned his head to the side to reveal kind of like how the dagger looks embedded in his brain. Also on this design, you can see he's actually got the kind of head stitches as well, and he doesn't really have a nose there. It's just kind of like flat to his face. You can see more of his musculature here through the shading, kind of see where his pectorals are and kind of like where the light's hitting. He's got these kind of big, huge cylindrical arms, which I think are really interesting, which shows his kind of musculature. And again, he's got this really flat head, kind of short blue hair, kind of lower jaw, kind of this I don't know what kind of shape. So it's maybe like a trapezium, this like trapezius looking flat head, which I think makes for an interesting kind of character design. He's got this also sickly pale green skin, which I think complements nicely with this kind of like aquamarine, kind of like bluish greenish hair, which looks quite good actually. Much different from this design, which this is more fleshy. I wanted to make him a little bit more unique, as like I said, he's eaten the zombie devil fruit, so I wanted him to be like a zombie. So that's really good. I'm most proud of one of these little designs here. It really wasn't anything different. It was just kind of, I want to have a little bit of fun, and I didn't really have much of a plan for him. So after that, I kind of went, oop, not that one. These are some designs from later on, but here's one I've got here that is just like a little bit of a bust. It's very rough. It's kind of like just seeing what his head would look like tilted down, you know, maybe like the dagger's tilted up. You'll see this blade change all the time, because honestly I wasn't really too concerned with making a polished design. I just wanted to have a bit of fun, and I think I've been putting a bit too much pressure on myself to make like a perfect looking design to show on YouTube, when in reality I just want a little bit of fun, and I just want to show off my designs. And if people like it, that's cool, and if no one likes it, that's also fine. I'm perfectly satisfied in what I've done. So I like that one. That was just a little bit more for maybe seeing the top of his head. So if I just hide these for a minute here, as you saw briefly there for a minute, I've got some other designs here that I wanted to do, just some different poses and different stuff here. I was playing around with kind of like different shading techniques, kind of different brushes as well. I recently picked up the I think it's like a Copic marker kind of like brush pen brush from White Manga. He's another creator on YouTube. He's absolutely fantastic. He's an amazing mangaka. You should read his series Apple Black. The art is incredible. And I got his Copic marker brush for like Photoshop and all that for free. So please check him out if you somehow haven't heard of him. But as you can see, I've got a few different kind of like designs here. This is a little bit more of the rougher one. I just wanted a different pose. Maybe he's like crossing his arms or something, which I think is interesting. And I've got this change to the hairstyle here as well. And I've got the dagger going through his head again as well. He's got this kind of like snare, kind of like looking off to the side. Maybe something's irritated him, something like that. And then I've kind of like emphasized it a little bit more here with just like some very quick line work here. I kind of like using a brown kind of like colouring ink. I don't know why, but I just thought it looked really good. Also on this design, you can see here his stitches on his arms, his neck and his head have these like gold clasps on them, or gold kind of like rings on them. I don't really know what I was thinking for that. I just wanted to do it and I thought it looked really cool. Although I think in this design it's a little bit of overkill, I think. But I actually still really like these designs. I don't think there's much wrong with them. I just thought that was a little bit too much. So if I hide them, then I've got another one here which is a little bit more washed out, using again that earlier mentioned kind of like Copic brush marker, which I think is really cool. And you get all these like really cool blending bits here. You've got kind of interesting textures here. Which I think makes for an interesting design. Here his skin is a little bit more washed out, a little bit coming back to that more pale human looking skin. And I've kind of removed those gold clasps or like gold things from his body because I think that was a bit too much from that last design. And the colours have changed radically here. I was trying to get that more comic booky kind of manga look. Or that kind of Copic manga look that you see a lot of like mangakas have for like colour pages and colour spreads. I don't think I quite nailed it, but I like the result all the same. You know, it's still an interesting experiment. Let's see what else I've got here. There's that one. Here I've got more of a back view of the character. I wanted to do not just front views, but I wanted to do like a back view, like what does he look like from the back. Here you can see all of his kind of like arm musculature, and all of these kind of like gold clasps, kind of like holding his limbs together. And he's got obviously his tank top there. You can see his back muscles and kind of like his thick neck and the way that the dagger's gone through his head from a different perspective, which I think is interesting. You know, when you're designing characters, you want to kind of have a different perspective. And I also really like these rougher designs because you can really actually see what I was thinking, how I've sketched, rather than just a finished product, which is what I think I want my videos to be known for and be about. Of you don't have to make finished polished art just to show off to people. You can just make art for yourself that you're happy about, that you're happy with, that you want to share with the world. So I'll just hide these. Next, I took a little bit of a break and then I started working on a full body design here. Here I used again another couple of references from Pinterest. I think there was a really cool image of, I think it's Conor McGregor in kind of like this 3/4 kind of full body posed view, which I really liked. So I wanted to use that as a reference. And as you can see here, it's really kind of like rough, but you can see kind of the dagger or kind of blade going through his head. He's kind of got this like of almost exposed teeth look with all these kind of like dragon lines. You can see his musculature. And the pose I was going for more of like a casual kind of standing pose, as if he's just, you know, looking at something off to the side here. But that's just the main rough there. There's that one. And then here, this is kind of like based off of that early one. So if I had that early one, here you can see I've done a different design here. Where I was thinking maybe he has a like this big cloak covering him, kind of almost like a Guts/Berserk cloak. As you know, you can see in Berserk, Guts has that big black cloak that he wears all the time, and I kind of wanted this similar kind of like aesthetic for this character. And also I want to bring in those elements from I believe it's Mary Shelley's I hope I'm getting that right. Frankenstein's monster kind of like story, as this was also a big inspiration. That was also a big inspiration, sorry, for this character. But because he's a zombie and you know, he has certain powers like pain nullification, he has kind of like you know, resistance to most things, most damage. He doesn't really wear any armor or barely any clothes at all, and just kind of have these kind of like basic shorts and this big cloak attached with this golden clasp, which I think would make for an interesting character. As you can see, I've kind of polished up that earlier sketch to include kind of like details like his toes and kind of like his musculature, all of his stitches, and kind of like cleaned up his expression here. And I've also actually changed his hair. Now, if I remove his cloak here, you can actually see the body underneath. So you can see he's got this kind of like dark black kind of matted long hair with this big swooping bit in the front there, which I actually really liked. Even though I really liked the kind of like blue hair, I thought this might have matched better color wise. And you can see his musculature that I've kind of polished up here. It's still very rough and very sketchy, but I actually really like this look, and hopefully that'll give you guys more confidence to kind of show your work and not be so precious with it. Here I was playing around with like the different scars. I give him kind of like the big Zorro kind of body scar, just for fun. And obviously he's still got that like blade or dagger cutting through his head, which plays into his backstory and makes it kind of thematic. So I really like that design with the cloak on and off. He's got these big kind of like popped collar things there, and that's bringing it back to kind of like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein's monster, because in the story it says that he has like this big long kind of like dark black hair that's covering his face, and so I kind of wanted to kind of like represent that. So I'll just do that. Next I wanted to do some other poses, but first I needed to actually design the a devil fruit he ate, and this is kind of like my design for the Hito no Mi mythical model zombie. Now it's very rough, but I'm happy with it. Like I said, I don't want to be too precious with this. I just want to have fun and share my designs, and I wanted it in the shape of a kind of skull, obviously, and we've got the devil fruit swirls in the back of the brain there, and obviously a swirl for the eye, and then these missing bits for like where the teeth would be, and then obviously this these leaves here that kind of act as hair, and then obviously then the devil fruit kind of like swirl at the top there. So I really like that design for the fruit, and maybe I'll make a polished up version of it. Let me know if you guys want to see that in a short relating to it with all the different powers. But I really like the design of that. Next here I tried a kind of different approach to it. I kind of changed the colour of his hair, make it a little bit more purple, as you know, green and purple a little bit more complementary, and I thought it'd play off it quite well. I also changed the colour of his skin. Here it's more of like a pale green, whereas this one it's more of kind of like fully saturated green. He's got these big cheekbones that are popping out, lots of like wrinkles, his big furrowed brow, his kind of snare, his kind of like popped collar kind of jacket there, and his hair that's kind of swooping here, that's shaved on one side and swooping around there, which I actually really like the look of. Next I've got kind of like another interesting pose here. I've got him kind of with his shirt off, and he's in a more casual pose as if he's just picked up a beer and he started drinking, and I really like this one. I think it captures his like nonchalant kind of like not caring personality of, because he can't die by conventional means, he doesn't really care what he does. He can't die from alcohol poisoning, he can't die from overfeeding, because his body's in a state of death and life at the same time. Because the way that the devil fruit works is that once you consume it, you are now this forever, kind of like how Luffy's body is permanently stretchy. This character's body is permanently in a state of life and death, so while he won't regenerate, he doesn't feel any pain, and he can just pop his limbs on and off whenever he wants. And I also reduced the kind of like gold clasps just to the top of his forehead there, And he also gave him kind of these bright yellow eyes, just to have a little extra colour in there and a little extra pop, which I think looks really good. I've also added here kind of like a screw or a bolt kind of tattoo that he has on his chest, just to bring it again back to that Frankenstein's monster concept, which is a huge inspiration. You know, zombies, Frankenstein, all those things that came together to make this character and the inspiration for the devil fruit. Here I've also done another full body kind of like sketchy design here. Maybe at this point, you know, maybe he's had a limb chopped off by a marine or something. He's just kind of like really angry. Here I've also made his body way leaner, as he was quite massive earlier. So I've kind of like reduced him to more of like an average build. But still, I actually quite like it. He's got the swooping hair, he's got the dagger, he's got his little kind of screw-up bolt tattoo there, and his like boxer shorts there that he wears. Here's a little bit more stylized. You can see I've gotten more of angled when it comes to like kind of the thighs here and how I kind of like sketch male bodies. And I also kind of have here kind of like coloured the toenails there like this dark green. I just thought it would be interesting to add to that design. What else I've got here? And then there's also an extra design here if I hide some of this other stuff. Here's also another design I had for using those kind of like Copic kind of like marker brushes. Again, it's really rough, but you can see he's making his kind of like scowling expression. You've got the dagger through his hair, through his head, sorry, and his club kind of blowing off. Maybe he's had like his hand cut off or something, and his arms raised back, and it's flapping because his hand's been cut off, which I think is really interesting. So, but now what I want to do is take you guys through his backstory. So let me tell you about that.
So while you guys watch this time-lapse sketching video of me designing a new pose for this character, I want to tell you the backstory behind Gideon Marrow. So basically, Gideon was once a charismatic leader of a bounty hunter group called the Graveblades, and he's always been obsessed with power and control and being feared by other people. And this group thrived under his leadership. But over time, as their fame became numerous and started increasing, he became very obsessed with proving himself and his superiority. Gideon's obsession led him to his discovery of his eventual devil fruit he would eat, called the Hito Hitonomi mythical model zombie. Now, he didn't know it was this kind of mythical devil fruit at the time, this cursed fruit, but he believed it would make him invincible. While the other crew were bickering and fighting of who should get to eat it and what they should do with it, whether they should sell it for money, he, without hesitation, consumed it, not really understanding the true power of the fruit. The fruit immediately had an effect on his body. His skin began turning like a pale, sickly green. His hair turned to a dark green, and his body began to resemble more of like patchwork, kind of getting all these stitches all over his body. And he started to look more like a reanimated corpse. Now, Gideon's crew discovered what he had done. They viewed him with just absolute disdain and fear of what he actually looked like, as he looked like a rotting corpse. But they were disgusted at the fact that he would just do something without consulting them. No longer seeing him as their leader, but as a absolute disgusting monster. Of his own hubris, they decided to rid themselves of him. The crew then basically formed a mutiny, and they butchered Gideon in a gruesome fashion. They all swarmed him, and he could kill quite a lot of them, but there was nothing he could do. They swarmed him, and they chopped him up and scattered his pieces on a remote island somewhere else. In the last effort of kind of like betrayal, they took his own dagger and drove it deep within his skull, and then they left him. However, due to the power of the devil fruit, Gideon was resurrected. He couldn't really feel any of the pain that they were inflicting on him, and basically the fruit had resurrected him essentially. Over many years, Gideon started gaining control over his severed limbs, and he began to reassemble himself. After many years, maybe 5 to 6 years, he finally was able to kind of like have all of his limbs reconvene back to his main body. Since he'd done this and had a lot of time to think, Gideon was completely different. He'd become a creature of absolute vengeance, driven by the pain and betrayal of his crew, and the curse of undeath he had actually inflicted on himself. The dagger that they had lodged in his brain remained in there, as he kept it as a reminder and a vow to basically destroy and kill his own crew. So this triggered Gideon's quest for revenge. Gideon's quest for revenge against his former crew was not just about retribution, but also a search for meaning in his cursed existence. He was like a Frankenstein's monster. Gideon kind of struggled with his identity of no longer being human, but also being some sort of monster, as everywhere he went, people would basically hate him with scorn. They would attack him, but he couldn't really feel any of the pain, so he just kind of ignored them. So, rekindled by his new life and his new power, Gideon starts hunting down the remainders of his crew. Gideon starts claiming the bounties on their heads using the very system they exploited together. And every kind of bounty Gideon has, he slowly rebuilds back up his own wealth that he formerly had. So that's basically Gideon's story of basically getting a taste of his own medicine and his own hubris, and also at the same time gaining a ton of power, and then started a revenge quest to basically slaughter every single one of them that betrayed him. So let me know what you guys think of the backstory. Let me know what you guys think of Gideon and his character design. Let me know what you think. And thank you very much for watching.